Dial of the Unseen Fate. May 2000, San Diego, California. On the corner of Rose and 6th Street stood an old phone booth, one that had been there since the 1950s. Faded, almost forgotten, it wasn't much more than a shadow from the past in a city bustling with new technology. People passed it daily, barely giving it a second glance. But for a select few, it held a sinister power, a test that no one passed by choice. This phone wasn't like the rest, and anyone who made the mistake of answering it was pulled into a dangerous game. Day 1. The beginning. On a chilly May evening, Jason, an adventurous college student home for the summer, was waiting on that corner, fiddling with his brand new Nokia 3210. He just received it as a gift from his dad, and he was eager to show it off to his friends. As he waited, he noticed the booth. It looked oddly out of place, dust-covered, the glass cracked and barely clinging to its frame. A sudden curiosity made him step closer. To his surprise, his Nokia buzzed in his hand. He had no saved contacts yet, and no one else had his number. The screen flashed with unknown caller. It rang again, and against his better judgment, he picked up. "Hello," he said hesitantly, expecting it to be some sort of prank. Silence on the other end. But then came the faint metallic sound of another line ringing. Jason checked around him, his heart thumping. He glanced toward the booth, and to his horror he saw the phone inside was ringing too. The caller's voice crackled on his end. It was low and rough, words dripping with something almost playful but chilling all the same. "Pass the wound, or the night will claim you." "What?" Jason asked, his throat tightening as the call ended abruptly. He stared at the phone booth, his Nokia still in hand, his mind racing with questions. Shaking his head, he shrugged it off as a prank, but he couldn't ignore a prickling feeling creeping down his spine. The first rule. The next morning, Jason's friend, Maya, messaged him about strange bruises on her arm that had appeared overnight. She had been at the same corner near the booth on her way home from work. When Jason met her later, he noticed her face was pale and she looked more tired than usual. "Jason, you're not going to believe this," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "Last night, I walked by that old phone booth. My phone rang, and it was the weirdest thing. Some guy whispered something about passing on wounds." Jason froze. "Did you answer?" She nodded slowly. "I didn't think anything of it, but then I got this." She rolled up her sleeve to reveal bruises winding like fingerprints along her arm. They just showed up. Jason's mind raced, thinking back to his own call and the chilling words he had heard. That night, Jason lay awake, sleep slipping away as a soft hum crept into his room. His Nokia lay on the nightstand, vibrating every few seconds. Hesitant, he finally reached for it. As his fingers brushed the phone, it suddenly stopped. It rang only once, but that was enough. A voice whispered, one he would recognize anywhere, Maya's. "I'm so sorry, Jason. It's part of the rule." The line went dead. Day 3. A chain of fear. Jason felt an ache in his arm the next morning. Just like Maya's, bruises coiled around his wrist, appearing as though fingers were gripping his arm. He understood now. It was real, a dark connection that was somehow passed from one to another. His heart pounded as he tried to think of a way out. Who could he even talk to about this? Later, his friend Leo noticed the bruises. "Hey man, that looks rough," he said, reaching out to inspect it. Jason jerked his hand away. "No, don't." But it was too late. Leo's fingers brushed his wrist, and, as if on cue, both their phones vibrated, chiming in unison. Leo pulled his phone from his pocket, his brow furrowed. "Weird, I don't even have your number saved yet." He picked up the call. "No, Leo, don't." Jason tried to stop him, but it was too late. Leo's eyes widened as he listened, his face going pale. After the call ended, Leo's hand trembled as he looked at Jason. "He said I have 3 days." "What? 3 days for what?" "To pass it on," Leo whispered, "or else it comes for me." Day 4. The new victim. Desperation set in for Leo. He tried ignoring the calls, but his phone rang at random times, making the air buzz with tension. The old phone booth became something of an urban legend, with rumors spreading about a haunted line that could reach into people's lives. Jason and Leo spent their nights in fear, dreading every buzz and every ring. They did everything to avoid passing it on, but the bruises worsened, spreading across their arms like a curse taking root. Jason, desperate, found himself drawn back to the booth one night, his Nokia buzzing in his pocket as he neared it. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice cracking as he spoke into the silent, dusty receiver. What do you want? The only answer was a chilling whisper. Pass the wound or bear its burden. Jason's hand shook, but his heart hardened. He wasn't going to pass it on, not if he could help it, but Leo felt differently. Terrified and losing sleep, he cornered Jason the next day. I can't take it anymore, man, Leo pleaded. It's either pass it or I don't know what happens next, but I'm not sticking around to find out. Leo, wait, there has to be another way, but Leo had already walked away. Day 5, a new target. The next day, Jason heard the news. Leo had passed it to his girlfriend, Lisa. She now bore the bruises, her fear mirrored in Jason's own. She had 3 days, just like the others. Jason, feeling guilt and responsibility, tried to find a way to stop the cycle. His only option was to face the origin, the phone booth. As he stood in front of it that night, he held his Nokia tightly, waiting. The booth's phone rang, almost as if it was waiting for him. The final call. Jason lifted the receiver, bracing himself. He heard his own voice echoing back at him, soft and strained. You should have passed it on. He felt a searing pain in his chest, and everything went dark. When he awoke, the bruises were gone, but something darker was left behind, a memory and a curse that still echoed in the corners of his mind. And on the corner of Rose and 6th Street, the phone booth waited, its silent receiver lying in wait for the next person drawn in by curiosity to answer the call of the dial of the unseen fate. Ending. The old phone booth never quite fades away, and anyone with a phone nearby just might feel a strange vibration, a call from an unknown number, and the fate of a deadly game reaching out to claim them if they answer. Let me know if you'd